Live. Welcome to this edition of Cars and Popcorn, the show where we bring on movie fans to talk about the cars and vehicles that make our favorite movies special. Today, I have a special guest. We're talking Rat Race with a good friend of mine. Host, you'll see him as the Bunk Bunker. You'll see him playing Pokemon Go occasionally, being a Pokemon correspondent, and various gameplay on YouTube. Eric Assenmacher, how you doing?
Well, first of all, it's awesome, Walker. Second of all, look at this room. What a beautiful room. Have you seen this room? But no, hey, as you guys know, Tom, he is the car guy, and the show is Cars and Popcorn. So, of course, I had to be the popcorn guy now. Oh.
That is wonderful. I'm glad you got popcorn just for that bit.
I did. I'm not even going to touch the popcorn for the rest of the episode.
All right, so we start this off with the same two questions I ask all my guests. So, two important questions. Eric, why'd you choose this movie? And two, what was your favorite car from the movie?
All right, so I guess we got to go a little bit further back to late 2001, where after a couple of tragedy came across some money. So my parents decided that we were going to get a new car, the only new car we had ever gotten. It was the 2002 Chevy Venture, which was one of the very first cars to have a built-in DVD player. And the reason we got this car is because we were going to start making a whole bunch of trips down I-95 and go visit both my grandparents' my mom's mom and my dad's dad down in Florida. So we were going to make a whole bunch of trips back and forth. So we needed some entertainment, and we had a whole bunch of movies that we had in this group. We had the first Shrek movie, like Spy Kids in this, like Jimmy Neutron. There's like all these movies that we definitely watched a whole ton in this car. But the one that has stuck with me personally the most is absolutely Rat Race, mostly because we would always pair Rat Race with Shrek, because one ended with All Star and one began with All Star, just because I like that parody in doing that. So it's like sometimes I would have All Star back to back. Sometimes I would start with Shrek and then end with Rat Race. So it's like we swapped it up. We watched that. I've had to have watched this movie probably 50 times at this point. And and I know a lot about this movie. You don't understand. There's so much trivia about this movie that I know that I'll probably spill over the course of the episode. But as for my favorite car of the movie, that's a tough one, because it's clear that there's a bunch of really good scenes with a whole bunch of these cars, and I'll probably do. But honestly, I gotta say my favorite car in the movie is the Lightning II rocket car that broke the land speed record. Even though the land speed record that they stated in the movie was not correct, and the land speed record that they broke in the movie is also not correct. So it's just a whole web of lies, but it's a great scene, and I love it. Especially the part where the mechanic shoots the gun, and it races the Lightning II, and it's going at the same speed, and you get them just like looking, seeing the bullet, just going, oh.
And
So yeah.
Here, of course, is the Lightning II of which Eric refers, and I'm going to jump right into that scene where they hop into this thing with no helmet, no protection whatsoever, and somehow find a way to drive this and not die.
Yeah. It's like they even tricked the actual driver on how to start it. And it looks like Kim Hanley is saying that her favorite car is Hitler's touring car. Another.
That's a solid one, and we'll definitely have to go more on that one.
Oh, we'll have to go on a lot of these.
So my favorite car is a really interesting one that I spotted out of the corner of my eye in the scene we'll discuss more, where Whoopi Goldberg and whoever that other person was crash into the pile of cars. And one thing I noticed in the background here, you'll see, is this little interesting red thing. I'm like, wait a minute, that is a Fiero, sir. And I love this little car.
I mean, I should have figured you would have just chosen one of the random cars just seen. It's like those are probably the two best of that team's scenes, both landing in this pile of cars and the rocket car scene. But we'll probably get into them later on.
Anyway, so the premise of this movie, I've been told it's really similar to It's a Mad, however many mad world, which I have not seen. But the whole premise is your basic rich guys are betting on a bunch of these people driving to Silver City, New Mexico, to open a locker and get $2 million. Really simple premise, but it just opens everything up for hijinks along the way. And the start of the race was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's like here's one of my favorite parts about this movie is that it's like the movie starts with a Baha Men song, and the race starts with a Baha Men song. It's probably the second best use of Who Let the Dogs Out in movies. The first is Rugrats in Paris, undeniably, because it's when it's a scene where Spike is escaping. So literally, Who Let the Dogs Out?
That is true, and that is one of the things I noted that severely dates this movie. As much as I enjoy it, that's Who Let the Dogs Out dates this movie probably even more than All Star.
Yeah, probably. It's like I do have a little anecdote. It's like I was when I went to go see Iron Man 3 in the theaters. And it's like, and of course that movie opens up with I'm Blue. And I turned to my friend I was watching the movie with. I'm like, I'm Blue. What is this? 1999? And then immediately after I finished saying that, December 31st, 1999. I'm like, I fucking called it.
Yeah, I remember back when Baha Men had their moment. They had like a few weeks. It's like the #1 video. The video was weird, and they just completely disappeared after like that first year or two.
Yep, I mean, it's like they made Who Let the Dogs Out. They made the theme to this movie, and that's about it.
And the fact that the best line from the start of this race, delivered by the wonderful John Cleese, who we've been using as our logo this week, is when someone said, "Wait a minute, you can't do this. This is illegal." He just replies, "I can do anything I want. I'm eccentric."
Wow. you got to do the growl, man. No. Actually, probably my favorite line of that whole speech is, currently Mr. Schaefer is in the lead because he's nearest to the door. He's just so frustrated that they're just still sitting there while he started the race. It's great.
Technically, you've been racing.
Yeah. Right. Probably one of my favorite parts about this was going back to that still talking about that scene where it starts, and they're all discussing like how they don't want to. And they're like, they don't want to let this guy get the better of them. Obviously led by Breckin Meyer's character, Nick Schaefer, who is it was a personal favorite character. I feel like he's got the best chemistry with his partner of all the teams. Well, him and then also Vince Valouf and Seth Green's chemistry are also really good. But it's like just the slow trickle of everybody making the decision to go for it is just great. And just like with it's starting with John Lovitz. It's like, yeah, my room's just 2 floors down, so I'm just gonna take the stairs. And then Cuba Gooding Jr. is just like, I'm gonna take the stairs too. And then that's when everything's like, nope, we're racing, we're doing this. And of course everything's like they all decide to be civil, and then it's ruined by Rowan Atkinson's Enrico Pollini. Just like, I'm beaming.
It's funny you mentioned Schaefer's rapport with his partner, and so if you remember, Road Trip came out a year before.
Yes,
and
it did.
So those two actors had already gotten to know each other, so probably factored into that.
Yeah, I like their chemistry more in this movie than in Road Trip. It's just a personal taste of mine. I just love that little hint of crazy that Tracy has, and it's great, especially during that helicopter truck chase scene. Oh my god, it's so good.
It's a little more of a hint there.
just all those lines that she lets out when she's chasing Dean Cain in that truck. It's so good.
Yep, and here she is, folks, chasing it down with a helicopter flying way too low to the ground, breaking, as she said, many laws, chasing down Dean Cain of all people.
Yeah, that's one of the few things, like there's so many of those like quick and you'll miss it like cameos. Like of course there's Gloria Allred at the beginning of the movie. It's like, man, how early 2000s is this? Just like, hey, Gloria Allred, she was a thing once, remember? And of course, how can you forget Kathy Bates in this movie?
Of course,
God.
She initiated that crash into the pile of cars.
yeah, that was it's like she is the crazy squirrel lady, and one of the few bits of trivia that I know about this movie, that is a meeting of both female 1994 Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress Oscar winners, with Whoopi Goldberg and Kathy Bates.
And of course, Kathy Bates scene being awesome with "You should have bought a squirrel."
You should have bought a squirrel.
I mean, how are they even going to transport that in a car?
I mean, it's got a cage. It's got a cage, man, and they're friendly.
It's funny you bring up cameos, because I noticed a really weird one. If you remember when Whoopi Goldberg was at the budget rent-a-car, and you had the trainee, can you guess where we've seen that guy before?
You got me. I don't know.
Let's see if you know this fantastic music video. Pretty Fly for a White Guy by The Offspring.
Wow. Oh man. Jeez.
I didn't realize it was from this. I didn't realize it was from this music video at the time, but I saw him at the rent-a-car desk, and I'm like, wait a minute, that guy looks familiar. Where was he from?
Speaking of, hey, that guy looks familiar, there's also Silas Weir, who is the locksmith guy who steals Dwayne and Blaine Cody's key and takes off in a hot air balloon, which is it's just a full-on thing. It's like that entire sequence is great because it starts with Nick and Tracy siphoning gas from a cop car, which then causes that entire chase to not stop because the cop has to back off, which then leads to the hot air balloon chase, which is a fantastic piece, but not as great as the other fantastic piece that they do. We'll talk about that later. But it's like that fantastic piece gets the cow hooked onto the hot air balloon. They get the key back. They drop. The hot air balloon goes off, hits the coach bus that Owen Templeton, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, is driving, full of Lucille Ball impersonators going to an I Love Lucy convention. The cow hits the windshield and causes the coach bus to get a flat tire, which eventually leads the bus to fall on its side. And it's so good.
It's a fantastic moment, but with Owen being in that bus full of I Love Lucy's, that's the point where I would consider quitting the race, because that would be my personal nightmare. It would literally be hell for me. I can't stand Lucy, and now not only are you bringing me Lucy's, you're bringing me many of them, and you're bringing me many bad impersonators.
It's just it's like it's so great too. It's like especially the part where everything falls apart and like the soap falls into the toilet and all the bubbles are there, and he's just driving like $2 million, $2 million, $2 million as the I Love Lucy theme is playing, and it's fantastic. I love this movie so much, guys. You do not understand.
This was one of those movies that when I was a kid, my parents would take us to Blockbuster once a month or so, and we'd have one of those like 7 movies for this certain price deal, and we all got to pick a certain amount. And Rat Race was definitely one of my picks, and it was one of those things where I revisited as an adult and still was able to enjoy it, but now more so appreciating that fantastic cast.
Oh yeah. And of course, can't talk about this fantastic cast without talking about, just the fact that more Rat Race trivia. It is regrettably the first movie that features 2 African American Oscar winners in the same scene, with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Whoopi Goldberg.
As interesting piece of trivia, and not one that I even thought of.
I know a lot about this movie from listening to the commentary.
Oh man, I have not even seen the commentary. Please tell me there's a video commentary of just Rowan Atkinson making faces.
No, it's like there is a deleted scene that's like test audiences decided it was too mean to Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, because we just haven't hit that level of slapstick with him at this point, where it was some wrestler cameo and his wife. As I don't know, you could probably look it up. I have no idea who it is off the top of my head, but they were driving a literal house, and he got hitched a ride on there. There was one of those like fold away beds, the ones that kind of come out of the wall, and he got trapped in that with the wrestler's wife, and got thrown out. And he got thrown out and lands, and that's when it gets to the scene where he's with the scarecrow and the horse. So that's why it's like it's weird. That's like he's being chased by Lucy's. They cut to all the rich people, and then suddenly he's in a field. That's like, what? There's a little continuity loss there.
I never really thought of that. You just see Cuba Gooding Jr. appear on a horse at one.
Uh-oh. All right,
Oh,
I think we're still live. We're still live, I believe.
Yes, we are.
Okay, good, because I just saw me on the other screen freaking out that you left. All right, so yeah.
Anyway, that's good. That's definitely good insight. And you mentioned the Seth Green moments earlier, and I think I know the moment you're referring to in one of my favorite cars from the movie.
Oh yeah.
This is the moment.
Oh
This
yeah.
this
It's like
wonderful this wonderful 1974 Bronco getting literally reeled in.
it's such a great scene as they're taking down that tower. It's just like, and the music choice is absolutely perfect for that scene too. It's just the slow dun 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 dun, and things just slowly just keep getting worse and worse for them, and it's like by the end it's just going that it's just getting faster and faster as the song does, and it's perfect, and they break it, and they just ground everybody except for Nick and Tracy, which is it's great. and and it's just like, it just right off the bat demonstrated that they are the team that is willing to do the most to win, which is why both them and Nick and Tracy are probably my two favorites of the teams. I do have a question. Who are your favorite of these pairings or teams? Or
I mean, does Rowan Atkinson and Newman count?
well, definitely Enrico Pollini. It counts. He's my favorite character as a character, not necessarily as a racer. Though he did make the only smart move of getting on the train to go to the train station.
Yes. uh, if you're talking teams, I I loved the Seth Green comedies of the early 2000s. So
Mhm.
it's Seth Green. It's his team. They're ridiculous. They start the movie with the clear intention of like doing anything to get money. So it's clear they were going to be the the dirty team. They were the wild cards that were going to make this interesting.
Yeah, Kim is talking about the ATC, the air traffic control tower. That's not something that they couldn't really do it anymore thing. And yeah, that couldn't. It did come out just before that. Would not really fly in a movie. It came.
And
It just eked before that time. It came out in August of 2001.
wow, that's close.
That is
And
very close.
and neither would be going straight for the airport either, dealing with airport security. And I looked up the how you get to Silver City by plane. The closest you can get without taking a biplane is either Albuquerque or El Paso, which you're still looking at like a 2 to 4 hour drive. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
after your 2 hour flight and dealing with security. And if you are lucky enough to find a nonstop, meanwhile you could just drive 9 hours.
I'm sorry. I need to hold on for a second. Tom has Tom Bennis has probably the best line in the chat right now. Seth Green had a case of idle hands, which left him without a paddle.
Oh man.
Oh god. Yep. Those are working in Austin Powers and a Buffy reference there, and you're golden.
I think he can do it.
But yeah, that's why everybody is trying to get the plane to Albuquerque at the beginning, and also leads to probably one of the best Seth Green Vince Floof scenes where they cut in front of the line. They're arguing with the guy that they cut in. They cut in front of it. It's like it turns to the lady's like, "Hey, is that the right time?" And she turns around and Vince Floof decks the dude. And they're able. Everybody's just like, "That's them. It's them."
It's us. And we haven't even talked about another one of my favorite teams, which was John Lovitz and his entire family.
Oh yeah, because that's the whole thing. Because with John Lovitz having to take his entire team, there was not enough seats for Dwayne and Blaine Cody to go to Albuquerque, which then led them to taking down all the flight, which then led Nick and Tracy to start racing. Because that's like, once he realized that Tracy was the only one who could fly since she was flying a helicopter, that was like, oh my god. And this is like after, it's like he saw John Lovett's racing by with his family. He just looks, he's like chumps. Because he made it to the airport before them, and they're racing. That's probably just my favorite part. And of course, we got to talk about Enrico Pollini's narcolepsy as well.
Yes, the rare sleeping disorder is brought up real quickly, and it was brought up as just like a checkoff gun for the end, basically. Real early on, to mess with all those rich people. I just bet on him.
Yeah, me too. $2 million. Then you realize that they're betting as much money as these people are racing for, and that just drives it home as well. And I bet you nobody bet on Nick, because he's just been the most skeptical the entire time.
I mean, I would think someone would bet on him. He was clearly kind of one of the more cunning members of the group. If you just look
absolutely.
at it straight up.
It's like the ending of that movie definitely makes that abundantly clear that he is the most clever of all of them.
I'm guessing his odds wouldn't be that great, but I feel like someone took a shot on him.
Yeah, it was probably a long shot. But you did want to talk about the Bear family, and first things first, there is a great sequence of scenes where like each of them that's like they're just whatever scenes, but then you put them together and it's great. We get the scene of his daughter saying that she has to take a dump, followed by her taking the dump out of the window, and then the next scene with them, they're pulled over by the police. But if you notice in the background, the other officer's wiping off the windshield. The poop hit the windshield.
I did not notice that one.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you notice when you've seen this movie like 50 times.
Fair enough. And one thing I did notice was one of the first moments where he interacted with the kids, where they passed by a Volkswagen Beetle, and the son says that's the car he wants, and Lovitz was just like, no, it's the Nazis drove them. I'm not going to drive anything that's driven by the Nazis.
I mean,
So,
all the Nazi humor. It's like, it's very, yeah. There's no real good Nazi humor, but this movie has some good Nazi humor.
so I know that scene was made to set up the bit later, but
Yeah.
I must point out the inaccuracy of that, because while the Volkswagen Beetle was never driven by Nazis, because Hitler's people's car that he wanted, which looks similar to a Beetle but is not actually a Beetle, was used to fund the Nazi party. They never actually built one that got to customers. They instead just used that factory for military equipment. So technically, the Volkswagen Beetle did not exist for the Nazis to drive.
I mean,
And
it's a simplification. It's an almost 2-hour long movie. Do you really want to make it longer by adding technicality to it?
I'm just saying accuracy.
Accuracy.
And to build on that, he's driving a Ford minivan where, Adolf Hitler actually sent Henry Ford a birthday card once. So he's got Nazi association right off the bat. Just saying.
And then, of course, we can't talk about all this buildup without talking about Hitler's touring car that they steal from the Barbie Museum.
Yes, that was very unexpected for them. I don't want to go to the Barbie Museum.
So I bet you're pulling up the car right now because I brought it up.
Working on it.
Yeah.
And you'll see it in between two hilarious Volkswagen things. That was their name.
Yeah, I saw that on IMCDB. I'm like, that's the name of them? Wow. Okay.
I mean, they're things.
Yeah.
And yes, this was made to look like Hitler's Mercedes, which I believe I have in my notes as a 770 Grosser. But as Eric already found out, was labeled on IMCDB as a Lincoln K. It, it was a Lincoln chassis that they tried to make look like a Mercedes. And the reason for that is only 117 of these were made. So it's kind of rare. It, that's
Yeah,
actually
I don't think Rat Race had the budget for that.
definitely not. But there are a couple interesting facts about the actual car, which is it's one of the first, I guess, occurrences. It was an overhead cam engine, which most engines were pushrod back then. So fairly advanced tech. It was a huge 7.7 liter straight eight, which was a very weird engine and caused that massively long hood, and was driven by pretty much only government officials and leaders like the Emperor of Japan and Pope Prius. This was a Pope mobile before it was Hitler's car. So, fun fact.
That's a terrible transition and kind of ruined the car.
I mean, it's still a cool car as long as you're not flying Nazi flags on it.
Yep, that is very true.
Oh, Justin actually pulling up the name Kubelwagen. Yes, it was in fact called the Kubelwagen, the people's car. And actually, the Beetle was closer to the Kubelwagen than the Thing. The Thing was closer, I believe, to a German military vehicle.
I mean, it looks very militaristic.
It is, but I don't think it was quite as effective as the American Jeep.
Yeah. So, one thing I do like, I would like to say is that I think each team definitely has. Well, most teams have an arc from the start of the movie to the end of the movie. Obviously, Nick's arc is about taking more risks in his life. Owen's arc is about getting over the biggest mistake of his life, which he made a bad call as a referee, and everybody at the beginning of the movie is just giving him shit for it, even down to the cab driver that abandons him in the desert
and forces him to end up on that Lucy mobile.
Yeah. One thing I would like to say is that Owen loses his pants twice in this movie and still manages to hold on to his key.
that is interesting and brings up questions that we probably shouldn't be answering on how he stored it.
I mean, during the scene where he steals Marty's clothes, who is the original bus driver of the Lucy bus, you can see during that entire "Give me your pants! I need your pants!" That's like you could see that he is holding the key in his hand very clearly. But I don't think I actually saw the key at any other point during all those wandering through the desert scenes. So, but he's definitely holding the key during that scene.
I assume and certainly hope he was holding it in his hands. Anyway, if anyone is interested in the chat, anyone in the chat, if you're interested in calling in for trivia, just direct message me your email on Twitter, unless I already have your email, in which case I can call you.
Oh,
Don't make Eric squirm alone.
We're doing trivia? I hope I win. Oh man.
Yes.
So, I will say that Rowan Atkinson's Enrico Pollini is probably the most quotable character of the movie. Obviously, because most of the quotes that people will say of this movie is "It's a race! It's a race! I'm winning! I'm winning!"
Well, yeah, because he comes up with pretty much all the one-liners.
That's like I mean, John Lovitzing it all over the place in this movie as well. Like we don't want to discount that, and of course we got Blaine Cody, who is played by Vince Valouf, who probably my last bit of trivia of the movie. Probably the most interesting bit of trivia about this movie is that uh, during the promotion of this movie, because Vince Maloof had to have that prosthetic on his tongue to emulate the tongue piercing that his character had in the movie. He did not actually get his tongue pierced. He had to work really hard to get his lines out. So his agent sort of tried to manhandle the company, who I believe Paramount made this movie, manhandle Paramount to give him top billing, and because of that, they removed him from all promotion, which then Vince Maloof promptly fired his agent, which is probably it's definitely probably my favorite bit of trivia about this movie. Just that story. It's so great.
And well, yeah, that's pretty interesting. Is that was kind of awkward, him having to talk like a pierced tongue, but it did give the excellent gag of him showing off with the female with piercings on the road, kind of
Yeah,
vacation like there.
it's like I believe just from my from my one of my very few calls into after the fights, I got Ian from Smosh to admit that was probably the best side boob of his childhood. which is a sentence I never thought I would hear ever from Ian from Smosh, but here we go.
Yeah, that was a very interesting moment. Just led them to, I believe that's when they crashed into the monster truck rally.
Yeah, it's like, and that is their team's last big action scene. They like I said before, they just have they definitely had the biggest stunts of all of the teams, and that's part of the reason why they're my favorite. The other part is, like I said before, that they're the team that was willing to go the most. They are the ones that actively sabotaged other members of the team, which led to John Lovitz's team having to steal the Hitler car just because they cut his wires.
I also think they removed the intake hose.
Mm-hmm.
If it so, I don't think that was a difficult fix for Lovitz, but I get they were hurrying out of there, so uh, I'll give him a pass on that one.
Yeah, he's in a race, and he was already losing time by stopping at the Barbie Museum.
Klaus Barbie.
I will lay one more bit of trivia. Initially, there was only supposed to be one tour guy role, but because they just love both of those actors for it, they actually just split the role in half and let them both do it.
All right, looks like Tom's going to step up and challenge you if no one else does. So
Oh boy.
that'll be fun. So now that's a good transition to get to my segment. I have not named it yet because I haven't thought of a good name, but where I'm going to replace a car with what I think would do a better job.
Can I
Eric, I
make a
believe you had a theory.
can I make a suggestion for the name of the segment? Cars
Go
and
for it.
swap corn.
Brilliant using it.
Okay.
And I believe you had a theory on which one I was going to pick this week.
So I did have a theory of what car he was going to pick. I thought, just basing off the fact that on IMCDB the car was listed as a Lincoln, that he was going to swap that car out for an actual car that he would have used. But yeah, you know what? It turns out in the pre-show I was determined. I was wrong. So please go ahead and say what car you wanted to replace.
So again, I gave them a pass for the Mercedes because of how rare that was. I appreciate the bit, and they made an effort to make it look like a Mercedes, so I'll give them that. But the transition was perfect because we had a monster truck rally in the middle of this movie. And here you see, I forget its name because it was some generic monster truck. I think it would have been worth however much money they would have to pay in royalties to replace that with Gravedigger.
Oh, that would have been perfect. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Oh, man, that is like the only monster truck that I have ever heard of. But yeah, Gravedigger.
Yeah,
That would have been way better.
that was my favorite monster truck as a kid because of course my dad took me to monster truck rallies when I was a
Of
kid.
course.
So that would have made that movie even better. Merchandising because you can sell Rat Race Edition Gravedigger toys. You know how
Oh
people
yeah,
love
man.
putting editions on everything. And well, before I get onto my tangent about Rowan Atkinson, is there anything else you would like to say about the movie, Eric?
Okay, what was one last thing? What haven't I talked about this movie yet? Let's see. I guess I could transition talking about that. Just like that this probably the best. I would say the best Enrico Pollini scene is the scene right before he gets on the train, where he's talking to Wayne Knight's character Zach, and he's like, "We should kill the
Newman.
Drifter." He pretty much is just playing like a slightly dialed down version of Newman. I am saying that, suggesting that he wanted to murder Enrico to steal his heart. It's like just like it's like, and Rowan Atkinson has this nice little scene where he's talking about how he's all alone in the world. Right after he's like, we should need to find a drifter. Hey Enrico, where'd you say you were from again? And it's like the realization on his face as he's doing that. He's just like, look, a drifter, let's kill him. It's just like it's so great. I love that scene. So I guess that transitions into what you want to talk about Rowan Atkinson. Just a little tangent here, which I am no stranger to.
Oh, of course, because if for those who don't know, Rowan Atkinson, since he's one of the biggest petrol heads around, here you can see him on Top Gear, where they had him do faces for various car experiences. I believe this one was for an Aston Martin. Notice the loving eyes.
It's like Rowan Atkinson
And so,
definitely has the best mugging of Hollywood. I mean, he's just got the best face. It's like well, maybe Jim Carrey's a bit better, but he's also just really good. Especially because Mr. Bean, he doesn't talk at all.
yep. And the one of the things they talked about when he was on Top Gear was the massive car collection that Rowan Atkinson has, and we're going to go through some of his more notable cars, which starts with my second favorite car of all time, the wonderful McLaren F1. There
That's a nice car.
there were not many of these. It's beautiful. One of the fastest road going cars in the world, and still technically the fastest naturally aspirated car in the world. Even 20 years later, he had this for like 15, 20 years, and he's had some moments with it, which I'm about to go over now.
Ooh, oh God.
Yeah, he actually crashed this twice. You'll see this little moment here. He drove this car a lot, and this car had a lot of power. So even he, who's actually a fairly respected track driver, has struggled with it. This this particular crash, they actually had to completely remake the carbon fiber body. He had to send this back to McLaren, their headquarters, which they rebuilt it pretty much custom because, of course, there are no spare parts for it. It took a year and $2 million approximately to repair this car after this wreck. But since Atkinson loved his car, he paid it. Some of the other highlights: Mercedes SLS. Here's him trying his best to egress out of that weird door and low sitting car. Does it fairly gracefully.
Yeah.
So this one is actually a really interesting car. This one is his Rolls-Royce Phantom that was used for one of the Johnny English movies. And the interesting story behind this one was that he requested that BMW, who owned Rolls at the time, stick the original engine that was planned for the Phantom in there, which was a 9-liter V16 engine, producing a whopping 770 horsepower and over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. And of course, BMW, taking advantage of this, actually released or had this as a commemorative concept car for the 100th year anniversary of Rolls-Royce. So you can thank Rowan Atkinson for this insane car that they actually let him keep. This is Rowan driving a Aston Martin V8 Zagato. So you can tell from this picture how serious he actually is as a driver. He's driven many track days, has run a few touring car races. He's fairly accomplished. Here's him with a Honda NSX, which was a beautiful, beautiful car from the 90s. And that's just a glimpse into the world of Mr. Bean and the fact that he's owned some pretty exceptional cars.
Yeah, so it's got to be very interesting that of all the racers, he's the one that never gets behind the wheel.
Yes, that was. I wish they had taken a moment and found some way to kind of jam his McLaren in there.
Yeah, but just going back, one of the introduction scene of him and Wayne Knight's character. It's like when he gets hit by Wayne Knight's car that's transporting this heart to El Paso, and he's like, "Oh no!" He gets out of the driver's seat, gets out, and he looks at the car, make sure the car is fine. He doesn't care about Enrico at all, and it's just like, yeah, no, he's just playing Newman here, but it's like
Yeah,
it's perfect. It works so well in this movie, and it's great.
I mean, he's Newman. He's in a hurry. He's got to make sure he can properly hit and run.
And he's got a delivery to make. You know, because Newman is a mailman.
Yeah, they really did not. They were not that subtle in the whole Newman allegories here.
A little bit. Now we're just waiting on Tom Dennis to get in here.
Yes, yes, we are. Hopefully, he will join in soon. Let's see. I don't
He's
think I
probably
can
just got to
talk too
catch
much
that
more
up.
about. Probably. I mean, we could talk about Rowan Atkinson some more because that if for anyone who's ever watched Top Gear and hasn't seen the interview with Rowan Atkinson, it was absolutely fantastic. They talk about his McLaren, they talk about his track days, and just if anything, go search YouTube for Rowan Atkinson Top Gear interview and just watch his faces. His faces for the different cars are fantastic. Is that the popcorn coming back?
Yep. I mean, it's like I figure if we're waiting, I might as well eat this before it gets too stale.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Oh, there we go.
We go. You heard the David Bowie
Hey,
reference
everybody.
and jumped in.
What's that?
Tom made a ground control Major Tom joke, and you came in.
Ha.
Like as soon as I say ground control to Major Tom, that's when you popped up.
I'm good like that.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm enjoying talking about one of my favorite movies.
I see that. I'm watching.
I'm hoping it's a good episode because I'm having a lot of fun.
This movie is so much childhood for me.
Yeah, I remember watching it once or twice, and Eric nailed it with the most memorable line being the "It's a race." Uh, so that's what I remember most about it, and John Cleese, of course. I feel like as a kid that might have been my first introduction to John Cleese.
It was definitely mine. Might have even been my first introduction to John Lovitz as well.
John
Oh
Lovitz,
wow, yeah,
I definitely known John Lovitz from The Simpsons before this because I knew his voice as soon as he came in.
critic too. Yeah.
All right, so let's jump right into the trivia section, and let's see. Since Tom so bravely stepped up once again, we'll start with Tom first.
All right,
Let's
I'm not good at
see.
this.
Okay, so we just talked about this. So, what exotic car owned by Rowan Atkinson is still the fastest naturally aspirated road car?
Is it that V16 one that goes 770? I'm not good with
The
names.
the Rolls? No, it's not
No,
the Rolls. That car is extremely heavy. It was the
I don't know.
McLaren F1.
McLaren.
Yes,
It's not real.
you're not real.
That sounds like a fake name.
Yeah, there's actually only one Tom. We've all been lying to you guys.
Okay, next up, Eric.
All right.
This is a fairly traditional question. How many cylinders did Hitler's Mercedes have?
I think you said 6? No, it wasn't 6,
Oh,
was it?
Tom's shaking his head. I'm going to let him try and steal the point.
I believe it was an 8-cylinder.
It was, in fact, a straight 8.
Ah, yeah, you did say straight 8. Damn it. Because like I was like
Tom steals.
I'm like I know he's gonna ask something about this. And I was remembering that I memorized that it was 7 liter, but then I didn't memorize that. I'm like thought of the wrong memorized the wrong thing. Oh,
Okay, let's see. So, Eric, Brecken Meyer played a racing driver in what other movie that happened to also feature a VW Beetle?
oh, I don't know. I don't know. It's like the only Breckenmeyer movies that I can think of off the top of my head are Clueless, Road Trip, the Garfield movies. Those are the ones that I can think of right now. It's none of those.
Well, it popped up in IMDb. Tom, do you know?
I could be wrong, but because there's so many of them, I don't know the title. Is it one of the Herbie movies?
Eric, I'll leave this
Herbie?
up to you. Should I count it?
What?
I I think I have to count it because
Lindsay
it
Lohan's
was in fact
Herbie.
Herbie.
Yeah.
It was Herbie fully loaded.
Yeah. You gotta count that. There's only been one Herbie movie that has been out since he was an actor. So
Yeah. All the names are Herbie this, Herbie that.
mm-hmm.
And Tom is doing a great job of avoiding questions by stealing points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I do.
So we're going back to Eric. Let's see. So, Eric, since you've seen this movie so many times, what car was Whoopi Goldberg's character originally offered at the budget rent-a-car?
Oh, that was- I don't remember. Oh my god. That's like these are all these guys, this is legitimately hard. I'm like I prepared for like many different questions and I'm like damn it. Nope, I don't got it.
Tom, anything?
First car she was offered. I want to say like a Buick, but I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
You're actually not too far off. It was a Chevy Caprice.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. We got a nice Caprice and then Whoopi Goldberg asks, "Oh, what color is it?"
Well, color affects speed.
Yeah.
Clearly, red is like an extra 10 to 15 horsepower, by the way.
You get tax extra on your insurance for having red paint.
Yeah. It's all due to visual light, but actually, did you know that it's not actually the color you see first? It's actually lime green is probably actually the color you see first, then red, and like blue is like all the way down. That's why it's if you look at a parking lot, it's much easier to count red cars than it is to count blue cars. Fun fact.
But
Fun physics fact.
also, I believe the root of that is the fact that I'm pretty sure red cars are more easily detectable on radar. Radar is I guess catching them easier.
Infrared.
It's all light based. It's all light based.
Anyway, we're getting somewhat off topic, so we're gonna go back to Tom here. Okay, so back to Tom. I believe I mentioned this earlier. What other famous leader also drove the same Mercedes as Hitler?
Okay, you said it was a Pope mobile at one time. I do not remember the Pope by the name, but let me try to see if I remember the other person. It was a good person, kind of. I'm gonna the Pope one for sure. Pope Silas. I don't know.
I would have been impressed if you actually stated the actual name of the Pope, but because I didn't say that, I'm going to give you the point for the Pope. But
what was the other
actually
one?
The Emperor of Japan, Emperor.
Yeah, for Japan, I knew that.
Not necessarily a good guy, but another. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Not necessarily a bad guy. I don't know. I don't know him personally.
I mean, I think he's dead at this point. So
yeah, he's mad dead.
Yeah. It's been like 70 years. He's dead.
That is, I mean, no disrespect to the Empire.
Yeah.
All right, Eric. We're going back to Eric here, and I mentioned it earlier. How long does it take to drive by car from Las Vegas to Silver City?
I know at one point you said 4 hours, but I do believe. Yeah, I think you said 4 hours.
Nah.
4 hours.
No,
4 hours.
No, 4 hours from El Paso, wasn't it?
It was Albuquerque, I believe. It's 4 hours.
Okay, yeah, all right. I'm like that. I'm
like
Tom's
that's smiling.
Tom knows
the answer is 9 hours.
Tom, you have officially tied Devon for 4 out of 5 correct.
Huzzah. Coming after you all. Oh no, he's gone. Okay, he's back.
Who was gone?
Eric disappeared on my camera for a second.
Oh no, none of you disappeared from me, so I don't know what happened. It must be on your end.
Probably.
Okay, let me get a good one for Eric here. Final question of the day. I don't think I mentioned that one. So the 2001 Dodge Intrepid, which Whoopi Goldberg did eventually rent, was being promoted by Chrysler in both this movie and introduced in what American racing series?
I don't know, the Kentucky Derby. I don't know. The Kentucky Derby's a worse race.
Think car racing, Eric. You can do this.
It's probably some NASCAR thing. Oh,
NASCAR is correct, Eric.
Yay!
That was my guess.
Dude, I'm like, here's like some of the things that I prepared for. It's like I was thinking like, obviously what you when we were talking before is like, you can't look up what like the fastest vehicle is. I'm like, obviously the fastest vehicle was a Lightning II, man. That broke the sound barrier. And then like some of the other questions are like, just going off of that, how fast is Mach 1 is a question I thought you might ask. What car was driven for the longest? Which the answer to that is Seth Green and Vince Villouf's Cadillac that they drive from Las Vegas to like 30 miles to Silver City. That is the longest stretch that any car had made. Those are the questions that I was ready to answer, and you didn't ask a single one of them.
The other one I had, because I surprisingly didn't mention it, which I need to mention it now, was that Rowan Atkinson sold that McLaren F1 that he wrecked twice for a whopping 8 million British pounds, which equated at that time to about 12 million American dollars.
Wow.
Keep in mind, this is a car he wrecked twice.
But it's also a car that was owned by Mr. Bean.
It was owned by Mr. Bean and incredibly rare.
I mean, it's rare, which probably doubled the price, and was owned by Mr. Bean, which probably doubled the price. So, yeah.
Although I think a really good example recently sold for somewhere in the realm of 20 million. So it is a very, very expensive car.
Yeah.
20 million
Right.
US or 20 million pounds?
US.
Okay. Just curious.
Man, I learned I gotta pay more attention.
Always pay attention.
That's like, because when you listen to that, I was like half like trying to remember and half also reading the chat as well. So I'm just like, oh man, those are some easy points I could have got.
The chat is dubious. That's easily takes attention away, and you might miss something. But Tom, since you stepped up so bravely to face your apparent rival Eric, you have anything to plug for this week?
Well, I feel like it wouldn't be appropriate if I did not plug my Pokemon Sapphire Nuzlocke that I'm currently doing with Randall. We're not releasing it as often as Eric, but I'm trying to catch up with him. He's way ahead of me. But come along and join us. We have some other Let's Plays going along too. Fallout as well as Animal Crossing, which Kimber is playing. Speaking of Kimber, we just fought the first couples match of Fan Friction, so you should go check that out. She did all the work. And check out Oddshape channel, as well as Oddshape, as well as our OSP and Chills. Those are our news things. And Eric always is nice enough to pop on and give us the Pokemon Go word. So, yeah.
All right. And Eric, what do you have to plug right now?
Well, I mean, as Tom sort of led into, I too am running my own Nuzlocke run in Fire Red, which I have very, very lovingly called Bunklock. So far, there are 3 episodes out where I just took down Brock. Spoiler alerts in Friday's episode. Monday's episode coming 9 o'clock. It's all ready to go. I've got episodes recorded to be released every Monday, Wednesday, Friday up until the 30th at the moment.
Nice.
And just as a nice little tease, I decided to, since it's the same episode as your Halloween OSP, I figured I'm gonna have a little fun with this, and I decided to have a couple of drinks beforehand, and it came out real good, guys. It came out.
Oh, I'm excited.
Real good. It's so good, and also Tom, Car Shape Tom. I figure you should know that I don't know if you've known this yet, because I don't know if you've seen it, but I named my Mankey after you, because I'm naming all the Pokemon after different tough people. So I decided to name my Mankey after you, and he is, as of the episode that has been released, he is absolutely the powerhouse of my team. Like, you are the mitochondria of my team, man.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right, and you can find me on Twitter at RoadRaider3. We'll be back here Sunday, November, I can't remember days, 5th, I believe? Is 2 weeks from now? Yes.
Yep.
2 weeks from now. Still have to figure out who or what. So I will announce that sometime soon, possibly on Oddshape channel. It's what I usually do. And thank you all for watching. And
before we go, I guess I should talk about it, since there's not really going to be many Oddshape panels between this point and the actual Halloween episode. But right now it is the Halloween event. Go catch the Gen 3 ghosts right now.
Already got them all.
It's really good. Got them all. That's like I caught all of them. I've evolved all of them and did popped a lucky egg. Did mass evolution. Got a bunch of Pokemon that I didn't have. It's real good, guys. So have fun and
Yeah, and it's double candy, so I'll clear out your stock, get all that candy that you've been saving up for, as well as
I see what they
keep
did
an
there,
eye out
Ghost
for
and Candy.
yeah, keep an eye out for the shinies too. I saw a picture of a shiny Sableye, and it's pure gold, and it's the cutest thing in the world.
It's just Sableye. None of the other ghosts or any other Pokemon other than Magikarp, obviously, who is the first to be released. But there are no shiny Pikachu right now because they're all Hat Pikachu, and they can't be Hat and shiny. So that unfortunately won't happen. But you can still catch shiny Magikarp, and you'll absolutely come across some shiny Sableye.
All right.
All right. So with that Pokemon Go report, it's time to end. Have a good day.